But before we jump on hip-hop, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, who spoke here a few weeks ago from Temple University, would have us to remember that what we see out in the streets did not create itself, but oftentimes emulates what they see elsewhere. He wrote an article, and that's how I actually first came about knowing about Dr. Hill. And the article was entitled, "I Blame Because I'm Happy." My Lord. It was a critique on what he calls the New Black Church. The New Black Church, which is known for ministries that are no longer called things like Bethel and Olivet and Calvary and things that make you think of something bigger than just a local congregation, but ministries now that are defined not by what it is that we say we are about ourselves as a community, but by the name of the pastor. Go to the Word Network and be at home and just kind of scroll down and see what's coming up. And 12 hours straight of so-and-so ministry incorporated, and this brother ministry, and that sister ministry, and not about the church or the congregation, but about the person. That we've gotten so personality driven that it is no longer the church that you serve, but it is the church that serves you. According to Dr. Hill in his article, this is what he said. I just want to read a little excerpt of what he said. And if you look for an answer about where this current generation got the idea that shining with material things is somehow the end all of existence. And what he says is there's a connection to the New Black Church. Listen to what he said. Artists such as Notorious Big, who once rapped that God meant me to drive a Bentley, argue that their enormous wealth is a divine reward for their impoverished past. And where would they get such a convoluted value? Or look at the New Black Church, whose good news has been reduced to God wants you to be rich, provides a good answer. Through the curious readings of Bible scriptures, depictions of Jesus as wealthy, and belief that people are poor because they ain't living right, the New Black Church reinforces the tired, conservative argument that the problems of the disadvantaged are self-inflicted. Word faith pastors no longer preach the virtues of struggle, sacrifice, or redemptive suffering, instead exhorting the poor to get right with God by accumulating capital for themselves. As one word faith preacher explains on his website, when you find out how to live your life according to the Word of God, you will become a money magnet. That's important. In other words, what we often see out in the street that we're so critical of may be only a mirror of what we see happening inside these four walls. That when the best that a large church can think to do with $175,000 is to buy another Bentley for a person who already has 3 or 4, instead of giving it to somebody that needs it or building a school in a neighborhood that needs it, when the best that we can do with our stuff there's something wrong with that. And yet we jump all on hip-hop with their excesses and rampant materialism. And then we model the same thing inside here. There is a disconnect. Yeah, I want you to shine. But I want you to understand what you need to shine about. That's what the text is about. The text in Matthew is an important text in the ministry of Jesus, and it cannot be disconnected from what went immediately before. Because right before Jesus begins to talk about you are the light, he says you are the salt of the earth. And he says that, but if the salt loses its flavor, its saltiness, it is good for nothing. It has to be thrown out. He's talking about what it means to be disciples. And then he goes to a new metaphor and says, now you are also the light of the world. In the Greek translation, the you is not you individually, but you collectively, that Macedonia, you are the light of the world. That all of us gathered today, you are the light. And he says that this ministry then is not a private affair about your own personal salvation. That you can then just go home and just be worried about you and yours, but it's about everybody's salvation. It's about the neighborhood and the community and those who don't have a church to call their own. And it's about all of us. Yeah. And he says, because you are the light, you got to shine. Yeah. Yeah. You know, he says, nobody lights something and then hides it. No. You light something so that people can see it. You light something so that it can give off illumination to folk who are in the dark. And if Jesus took the time to light you up and to fill you up with light, he didn't do it so that you can then go and hide somewhere. But he lit you up, not again you individually, but you up in 1833 on this corner. And he says, you are not just light for the 1800s, and you are not just to be light in the 1900s, but you are the light as long as you occupy this corner. And as long as you occupy this corner, there are people that live in darkness all around you, and they need to know the good news, and they need to see the light. But how can they see the light if the light don't shine? How can they see if the light don't shine? I remember we were blessed with about 5 pallets of food once here, my first year. And so we didn't know what to do. I mean, there was so much food it filled the fellowship hall. So we just sent out some flyers about 4 in the afternoon and said 6 o'clock we're going to give food out. Just passed them out to a few people. And I mean, folk were walking up on the church like SWAT. One lady that rolled up, the lady opened the door on the side for me to stop. They rolled out, and I mean, they took all that food out of it. And I remember there were some vacant houses behind us that are torn down now. And this brother, I mean, it looked like he just crawled from underneath the house. And he came over, and he got his food, and the brother looked at me, and as he was leaving, I mean, I was about to say to him, I didn't think anybody lived in there, but before I could say it, he said, man, I didn't even know this church was still open. I said, my God. I mean, what an indictment on earth. We've been here 175 years and folks didn't know we were still open. He lived right behind the church and I didn't even know y'all were still in business. You got to shine if God put a light inside. Don't keep it to